Hi everybody! I just finished this book, Daughter of the Forest, a couple of days ago and wanted to write a book review so that all of the ideas that I have are still fresh in my mind. It's a fine line figuring out when to write this review because I don't want to jump right into it because I want to give the book a couple of days in my mind just to stew and maybe think of anything that I might not have initially thought of. So still figuring out when's a good time to write my review without forgetting everything that I just read, but a couple of days so far and I think it's good. Let's go ahead and get started. As usual, I start off with a nicer header using my Pentel calligraphy pen, and I'm excited to write this review with my TWSBI Eco fountain pen that's inked up with a beautiful green ink to match the theme of this book. And this time I remembered to print out and paste in my book cover sticker before starting the review. Next, I go in and write down the whole plot. I went from writing plot summaries to writing down everything that pretty much happened in the book so that it can help trigger my memory when I look back at this book review again. But anyway, this book is almost like an Irish fairy tale following the trials and challenges of a young girl who grows up into a woman. There's a touch of magic and romance in here, which added a little bit of whimsy, but there were also definitely some darker themes in here, such as the power and place of women in medieval societies, but also, more strikingly, othering those who are different or think differently from you. But throughout the story, we see the quiet strength of our main female character, Sorcha, shine through. After writing out the plot, I start freeform writing about the book. For this book, there weren't exactly strong likes or dislikes on my part, but I just wrote about things that jumped out at me. For example, here, I'm talking about how, overall, I was pretty surprised by how much I liked the story. I don't know about you, but I do like to judge books by their covers, and trust me, this book's cover is pretty old school, so I didn't expect to be drawn so much into the story. To me, it felt a little bit like Game of Thrones meets Goose Girl, just because of the sheer number of characters and the medieval setting of this story. But it's not exactly a cozy fantasy, because there is a scene where the main character gets assaulted. However, to me, this lends a more realistic and weightier background to the character, as we see her lose her innocence and change from girl to woman. Next, I talk about the romance part of this book, if you can even call it that. It was very subtle, and more like a growing relationship between two people who are constantly near each other. Like, Sorcha and her love interest, Red, barely even have that many scenes together where they are speaking to one another, but through their actions, we see how they end up caring for each other. To me, this is beautiful and a refreshing change from modern romance books. Usually, they rely a lot on dialogue between two characters and putting them in the same scenes over and over again to establish that relationship. But in this story, like I said, actions speak louder than words, which gave it a beautiful, almost ideal outlook on a romantic relationship. Finally, I'm writing down my concluding thoughts, talking about how I admired the quiet inner strength of Sorcha, the main female character, and how she showed her love for her brothers and Red through her sacrificial actions. The tale was beautiful and a surprise favorite of mine for this year. Finally, I end with copying some favorite quotes from the book. Usually the quotes that I really like are some sort of universal truth or wise words or advice, and others are just beautiful language or descriptions. The way I gather these quotes is actually by highlighting them in my Kobo as I read the book, and then when I am all done, I connect my device to my computer and import those quotes into Obsidian. I wanted some place to compile all of my highlighted quotes so that they can easily be searched again, and so far this is the system that has worked for me. So yeah, after importing the quotes, it's actually very easy for me to go through Obsidian, read through all of them, and star the ones that I think are the best. Finally, I copy them over into this reading journal so that I can write my own commentary for each quote, talking about why I liked it and if it reminds me of anything in my own life. If you're interested in learning in detail how I port over my quotes, let me know and I can consider making a tutorial video. Now I go into the finishing touches of doing my book review. I actually forget to do this a lot, but when I remember that I have these stamps, I like to go in and give it a rating, as well as tag what kind of media this is. This is a journal that I use for all of my different media consumption, so tagging it this way has been super helpful when I flip through the pages quickly. I am pleased to be able to give this book 4 stars. Here is the final book review and flip through. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will talk to you next time.